The following opinions expressed in this program are that of Noah Waterman and do not reflect those of any other Guys, that can't be right. Can we try that again? The following opinions expressed in this program are that of Noah Waterman, his guests, his parents, your uncle, your auntie, your fourth grade teacher, that guy that brings his iguana to the park, the state of Mississippi, the Brian Setzer Orchestra, three babies in a trench coat, you, yes, you, in the red and blue striped polo.
This is the best game of all time.
Friends, folks, welcome to the Kaiju Lounge. I'm your boss monster, Noah Waterman, and we are here. We are back, baby. Episode 2 of the best game of all time podcast. Dare I say, if we were treating this like a overly zealous relationship, it is the 1 month anniversary of the best game of all time podcast. So far, you know what? A small audience, but I've gotten great responses from a number of you so far. And thank you. Thank you for the support you showed us in episode 1. Episode 1 was surely what's the word I'm looking for? It was a epic undertaking. It was going above and beyond, right? We laid the foundation of the list that defines our generation and generations to come, that is laid, etched in stone for humanity to truly rank every game of all time. We did 10 games in the last episode. I feel pretty good about that. Never going to do that again. That was a lot, admittedly, but it was important to get that out of the way, right? So now we have a framework. Now we have the list, the settings of which we compare everything else to, so we can start going a little more in depth. And that's what we do with this next episode. So we're back. Me and the three guys, my old chums, going over two games that have often been compared to each other by virtue of being the same game and not the same game at the same time. It is Disney's Aladdin. Disney's Aladdin for Sega Genesis and Disney's Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. If you're listening to this on any of your favorite podcasting apps, and are curious to what we look like and maybe want to even see examples of the games we're talking about, we do have the full video of this podcast on YouTube. Check it out, youtube.com/BossMonsterKaiju. You can see the entire episode, our lovely faces, and now little excerpts of the game, plus an animated version of the list. Maybe if you're more of a visual learner, it helps you there. However, if you're starting this on YouTube and you're like, oh, this is too long, how am I going to be able to finish this? Don't you fret. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. Chances are, if you listen to podcasts on a particular podcast app, we are on it. And if we are not, leave us a comment, social media, me, DMs in various places. Let me know what podcast app you want us on. And dadgum, I'll do it. But enough of me talking, enough of me going on and on, guys. You are here for the meat and potatoes of this podcast. You are here for the best game of all time. And friends and folks, I give to you episode 2 of the best game of all time.
Will Smith has rarely pitched movies. He normally hears about things and then barges his way in. So I feel like there's a better chance that the board met about remaking Aladdin. Will Smith's people got wind of it and he went and was just like, you should cast me as this.
Yeah, that's very probable.
Will Smith is very bullish in the box office.
I hope his audition was just him doing the same cultural references that he was check out me doing these dated impressions.
Yeah, here I am as Ed
this is
Sullivan.
better, right?
Will Smith as Bill Clinton playing the saxophone. It's perfect.
Honestly, though, I will say that I saw this movie with James at the kids' viewing on a Sunday morning, and really the only bad parts were Will Smith when he was blue. He was entertaining and fun, and the movie was good in the sense that it was a fun movie for kids, and the kids in the theater loved it. But really, he looked weird when he was like this, and it felt uncomfortable. His face was way too real, and his body was way too CG, and it just it was definitely uncanny valley.
Say weird uncanny valley.
Well, you know what wasn't uncanny valley at all was the animation for either of the two games we're talking about today. That's as good of a transition as I'm going to be able to give right now. Guys, welcome back. It is our hunt, our continued quest to find the best game of all time. I'm back here with the boys, the Zoo Crew, the Dog Pound. One of these are going to stick, I'm pretty sure, right? A little morning crew kind of stuff. We got Patrick Molloy, Michael Petrocelli, and Lewie Thomas. And today we're talking. It is a battle, our first ever battle of the ports. I feel like there's going to be a lot of these, but this felt like a good one to kick off. An age-old question that's been brought back somewhat recently. Which is the better game? Aladdin for Sega or Aladdin for Super Nintendo? And more importantly for us, where do they fall on the list? Before we get to that, we're going to go ahead and get into our opening segment. Get to know your panel. This is a moment where we're going to go ahead and ask a question. It might be a question for the entire group or a question for an individual. Let's say, Patrick.
Bing bong.
You mentioned in the last episode a wall of gaming, right? You go ahead and you take your pictures after you beat a game and stick it up on the wall. Has there ever been any drama around that? Let's say beating a game before someone else did. When did that get juicy?
This is not a loaded question at all.
Yeah, right. What a pointed question. I am 99% sure. Wait, shit. I don't remember if it was Toy Story or Lion King for 100% certainty. I think it was Lion King. But it was a Disney SNES game. And old pal, John Dean and I had been grinding away, passing the controller back and forth, trying to beat the game. Made it quite far in a few times, only to run out of continues and have to go all the way back to the beginning. This was on the actual system itself, not on an emulator, no save states or anything like that. And John went to class. We were in college. Sometimes you had to do that. And I died. All my continues ran out, started all the way to the beginning. And then I played straight through and beat the entire game and took the picture by myself, as I had been the only one to play that playthrough and make it all the way to the end, much to the dismay and anger of John Dean. Nearly a friendship rocking or destroying fallout over.
And you couldn't have paused it and kept it up until it got back?
There was always a danger to pausing games. I mean, there was probably a 3-day period of time where I had the Lost World Super Nintendo game paused, and you could not use the Super Nintendo or anything on the television other than the AV input because it was taking over the RF connection.
I'm pretty sure I'm the one who turned off the Super Nintendo
pretty sure
at that time.
Because we wanted to watch Arrested Development.
Yeah.
That is why. You're right.
We spent enough time.
You have a storied past of turning off video games.
Some of them I regret a lot more than others.
We can bring that up.
I feel less bad about.
Still never beat the Lost World Super Nintendo game though. But yeah, so yeah, it was you had to just do it. You had to just do it when you could do it. I got in there when I got in there, I got my picture, took the glory, some hearts were broken along the way, but sometimes you just gotta buckle down and do it. And that's what I did.
It's all for the price of being, truly cemented in the annals of history. These pictures you still have, I'm sure they hold so much importance that they must be around somewhere.
I mean, I think I have the pictures, but I will tell you, they all came out like dog shit because what didn't look good was a disposable camera's flash picture of a CRT television with two idiots smiling and putting their thumbs up in front of it. Most of the time, you couldn't even tell what game it was in the background. Certainly would be better with a digital camera or an iPhone in the new days, but yeah, no.
All right. Well, from one Disney game to another, as we mentioned, we have played two versions of Aladdin, the Sega Genesis version and the Super Nintendo version. And before we start comparing them to each other, I want to treat them on their own merits. So let's jump into the Sega Genesis version of Aladdin. Tro, you've talked about how you pulled some facts for us. I pulled some as well, but I think you've gotten maybe a little more in depth than me. So why don't you lay down what facts do you have on Sega Genesis Aladdin?
Yeah, so this was developed by Virgin Games, not a terribly notable game developer, and I don't want to spend too much time comparing it to the other developer involved, but I'll just say I think Virgin Games is very much punching above their weight class with this versus another developer maybe not doing the same.
No, question. Was this, do you know if this was before, we can look this up, was this before or after Earthworm Jim? It's the same team.
I actually don't know that. I think 93 was before, but I can't say that for sure.
I think that would make sense as well. I feel like this seems like there's a lot of Earthworm Jim's DNA in this game, I feel like.
For sure. And what I find was interesting about it was that because one of the notes I took when I played the game was how I felt the art style was more evocative of the movie than, the Super Nintendo version. Mm-hmm. And apparently the Virgin Games worked with the animators, or at least some of the animators from Disney, on developing the art style for this game. And it's one of the first video games to use hand-drawn animation. This is all coming from me reading the Wikipedia. I'll be honest, they had nothing said citation needed, so it at least has a source somewhere, but I didn't dig too deep. But so I can't claim the first hand-drawn animation thing, but it is, I do believe that first part, they clearly derived this very heavily from the animation from the movie, a lot more than the Super Nintendo game, which was a lot of Aladdin just represented in Super Nintendo graphics.
Yeah, and they worked with Disney, right on the splash page. It says Virgin Interactive and Disney Game Studio, I believe.
Yes.
I think it's like Disney Interactive, something like that. But yeah, I mean, they did, because I saw a lot of those things both in Wikipedia and elsewhere. They did. They got a handful of animators working underneath one of the Virgin Interactive execs, I believe, to provide them with the art, provide them with the cells. And it's the first time they use the process of I think it's called Digicel, where they basically take the animation, convert them into the sprites, and then kind of condense them, which is why you have such nice, smooth animation. And I'll give it to this game. The actual animation itself looks pretty good. Yeah. You look at them side by side, it looks great.
And I'm sure.
I wanted to call out, did you notice the Sebastian the Crab locked up in the dungeon?
There's the Pirates of the Caribbean dog with the key in the dungeon as well. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Goofy hieroglyphics in the desert. Yeah.
I loved the comedy of the Sega Genesis one. I actually feel like you could very clearly tell that there was a lot of care and thought put into what was in the background, what was funny about the game and stuff like that.
Even just that beginning, that opening that they had where there's the genie as the ref and he fires the gun and shoots Iago and it drops down, right? Feels a lot more like an actual site, and maybe it was. I haven't in playing both games. I realized I hadn't seen Aladdin in forever, and I also realized I should not be using either one of these games as a guide to tell me what happened in that movie.
You don't remember that part of the movie where Aladdin goes inside the genie's lamp and
both games. I know we are getting hit, but truly a wild thing that both games are what we need.
But I say in both games' defense, if they didn't have that level, you feel like you missed out. I feel like that's such a perfect level.
You needed to have a friend like me level, and they both wound up coming to the same conclusion about it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and honestly, I mean, in the again, not to compare them, but the Genesis game does a much better job of being like, so it's a fucking video game, right? The stages can be anything that you want them to, and the Super Nintendo one really gets dragged down by like a lot of the backgrounds looking the same when it's like it doesn't have. You did this one level that's madcap, like you could have done more of that and like chose not to. So like just being like, let's put a bunch of different vivid backgrounds to it.
I want to put a pin in that when we compare them, because I have some thoughts on that. Like some I agree with, some I counter on that. But I think I want to throw out one kind of last point here is that this was the third best selling Sega game ever.
That was the other thing I was
ever.
Yeah, after Sonic 1 and
Sonic
2.
1, Sonic 2, Aladdin. Not even Sonic 3.
You got to throw apples and swing a sword. I don't see what the problem is there.
Also,
Sonic didn't have
you
a sword.
also need, not just you got to throw apples.
Yeah, you had.
You need to.
Yeah, that sword swing was bullshit.
You needed. Also, hold on. This coming from the person who had barely played Symphony at Night, but was claiming, I hate platform games where you have to use a weapon. Hey, literally was your like number one go-to when we talked about that.
Well, I'll tell you the problem, and I mean, cut back.
This is a much worse sword.
Cut back and play my audio if I'm incorrectly saying this. But my problem is that in Symphony of the Night, the fucking enemies come at you from every direction. They like float up through the floor.
In the one
10
level
times the size of you. Yeah, they're like. And at least in Aladdin, like, you know, the occasional bat or scorpion or whatever, but most things come at you straightforward. You
at least I know when I hit something, when something hits me, and those fucking bats come from everywhere.
Yeah, I would argue that the design of Aladdin Genesis gets more bullshitty as the game goes on.
I fully agree. I came off of the Super Nintendo one to play the Genesis one, which, not to spoil how I feel about the Super Nintendo one, but at first I was like, oh my god, this is maybe the greatest game I ever played. And then about at the escape through the Cave of Wonders, I was like, I fucking hate this game. And then it just really went down. It got even worse.
Yeah, it definitely starts to get into, like, it almost feels like at a certain point they were like, well, we can't have kids beat this right away. So we have to start making it more difficult. And the Cave of Wonders, particularly the escape part, is definitely where that starts.
That was...
I hated that.
That in the trash.
I mean, just give me some fucking headroom. Let me know where I'm jumping to. Like, well, God damn it.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem with the Genesis one, was that, like, its idea of platforming was you need to hit jump as you are as close to the edge as humanly possible to do and we're also not going to like scroll the screen and so there are a handful of times during the game where you just have to jump because it seems to be the only limited option you've got, and then there is like a platform that you fall on. But boy, it wasn't even that it was like poorly designed platforming. It's just the platforming had one gimmick, and it was far distance.
Like, Tro, you talked last time about how there are certain games, like Knights was a game that made, or I think it was Sonic, made you get like physically angry. Mm-hmm. Like the lava level in the Sega Genesis version had me shaking. Mm-hmm. I had Hannah ask me in the other room, like, what was wrong, like kind of like levels of yelling, just losing my shit. But
level
on the lava Cave of Wonders level.
Yeah,
it's a cheap plug for myself. Twitch.tv/BossMonsterKaiju. It's a full thing of me losing all my lives. It continues just on that level and losing my shit.
Yep. I mean, I'll be upfront right now. I fully looked up cheat codes for the game after like playing that level for 20 minutes, and I was like, I'm a man in therapy. what is my time worth to do this thing that I do not want to do anymore? And when I saw, like, if you go into the cheat menu, you can do level select, I was like, I do not need to complete this level in order to have a final opinion on what this game is.
Wait,
So,
Louis, did you do the magic carpet part, or did you skip all of
yes,
that?
I did the magic carpet part.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Did you find the completion of that segment to be arbitrary? Because I died a couple times and lost a life and like started over, and I was like, and one time I got really far and it was going really fast, and I was like, how long is this level?
Yes.
And then I died again, not doing that well, and all of a sudden it was like, nice try, and then moved me along, and I was like,
die 3 times on that level, it for whatever reason progresses you to the next.
Oh, wow.
That's the Sega Genesis one.
Yeah, in the Sega Genesis
Honestly,
one,
I wish they had done that in the Super Nintendo one.
fully agree.
Not like
Not
on
to
the
get
lava
into
level?
too much.
no, on the escape,
On the magic carpet level.
Oh,
in the Super Nintendo.
That's what I mean. The Super Nintendo, the lava, like I beat that in one try. That felt felt crazy easy.
We'll talk about that when we get to the Super.
Let's talk about the Super Nintendo one now, because Noah, that's a fucking lie.
No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, we're gonna need you to go on Twitch right now and prove that.
Just roll
the footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Before we get to that, I do want to talk about some things that were good, because honestly, this wasn't a trash game. There were things that were absolute trash about it. I do think there are some things that were that were at least better about it, if not fun. I think the animation is one that does come up, because, like, as you said, like, I don't think I'm not as much of a fan of the art style, but I'm a bigger fan of the actual animation that was fun to play through. I thought that the choices in like actual level design and stuff, was all right. Yeah. It's just the actual mechanics of the game were shit, but the actual game itself, I don't think was that bad. If give it the Super Nintendo mechanics, it might have been a great game.
Right. If you could have somehow married the, like, I have a lot of issues with the design of the Super Nintendo game, which we'll get into, but the physics and kind of feel of the game is a lot tighter, whereas my problem with the Genesis game is that Aladdin feels very loose to control, and I think maybe a more skilled developer could have made that kind of flowy movement really work, where you're like flowing into jumps and like you're running and like all that stuff. But I found he skidded to a stop all the time, and there were so many times where I like carried over the side of something, or like had a hard time being precise, or got hit, because the hitboxes are also crazy, where like, and like that ties into your sword play also. Like the swinging your sword, as we alluded to before, is dumb, because like there's no like, I don't want to say this, but like sounding like a psychopath, like I need there to be tactility to the sword play, where it's like he's cutting into people, but you know what I mean? Like it's when I say it, it's like there's no clear definition of like hitting somebody. Like Kirby, if you swing a sword in like Kirby Superstar or whatever, like it is very clear you're hitting something, and that game is a very like G-rated game.
It's the collision detection. There's the
collision. That's the word I'm failing to say. It's the collision detection. It's why you needed to throw apples so much, because the apples had a clear like trajectory and like hit things and were thrown from a distance. The sword, I mostly was swinging like crazy, trying to hit something. Right. And then the last thing I want to say is that it's one of the few 2D games where I had a problem with the camera, where like Louis, you were alluding to before about like not being able to see ledges. Like the camera kind of swings around. Yeah. And like it's trying to favor what direction Aladdin is facing. And I get that they were kind of torn between like, we can't zoom it out too far because you need to be able to recognize the models, and we did all this hard work on the animation. But also like the levels are big, and like we kind of have to like, you know, we can't just have you running blindly all the time. So it just keeps like swinging around, and like, I usually in a 2D game don't have to complain about the camera, and I had issues with the camera in this.
I will say that if we're speaking purely about the Genesis one had the introduction at the beginning that told you what the different pickups were and stuff like that, which I actually really liked. I liked the very visual. I understand the tactility argument, but I liked the visual of the life meter that was like actually the lamp. I liked the fact that it was broken up. Like the Abu mini game was actually identical but reversed of the Lion King mini game of Timon and Pumbaa, where you have things falling from the top that you're avoiding. But like this is mostly flashbacks to me as a kid playing this Genesis game, but I really enjoyed things like variety and stuff in a game. So I liked chance games. I liked that it like played with you. I liked I liked all of that. And I think that this game really did bring that like level of like fun and interest.
I will say, like, I liked in the level construct, like how, like, especially in those early ones, there were like very different, like in the desert level where they're like, find the scarabs, or the one where you have to collect the flutes, where I was like, I get it's really not asking you to do anything that different, but like they're giving you an objective. And I was like, that feels ambitious. I think to the camera issue, one of the things that I think caused the problem was that you in this, like in the larger levels, had to go left and right in a way that like most levels would only scroll in one direction, right? That was like kind of cool. Like some of this felt like the failings were because of ambition, which I will always be a little bit kinder to.
I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Even like the sword play, which I thought was admittedly trash, but like the fact that it's like, oh, like those guys that are throwing knives, like you can deflect them back, like with like the sword to hit and whatnot. Like I was like, that's cool that this is all. Could it be way better? Yeah, absolutely. But like
you bring up ambition, it's a fair point. Like they only had from January to October of the same year to do this. This is about most games at that time would have taken a full year. They only had 3 quarters of the time it would make a full game.
Had less time than that, and that was a pretty good game.
I was just about to bring up ET and ask how long it was that they had.
5 weeks. 5 weeks was the ET development.
if you want the hill to die on is that you enjoyed ET more than either of these games, then by far.
You gotta wait till we get to the ratings.
I mean, I think there's a lot to complain about this game, and trying to put away my general Sega biases aside as a Nintendo kid, like this was a good Sega game in the way that Sonic 1 was a good Sega game, I guess. Like, I get to see Pat's face immediately.
I will too. Before we get into some of the other specifics of the Genesis one, to Patrick's point about the chance games, let me say there was never an end of the level where doing that genie roulette where I did not hit Jafar before I used up all of my. Like, I never once got all of the power. It would be like 1 or 2 at best, and then I would lose.
That laugh is going to haunt me.
I actually had to play. I had to play the chance game several times before I got Jafar, because I was wondering. I wanted to get Jafar because I was like, does Jafar kick you out as soon as you hit him?
Does Jafar just take away for the carpet thing? Come on.
Wait a second. I always got Jafar.
No, I didn't get Jafar until I played it like 3 or 4 times, and then I got Jafar on the first one like 3 times in a row.
There's one time I had 8 genie spins still left, and I got Jafar immediately, and I was like, this game could go straight to Christian hell. It's like, I hate it. I hate everything about what's going on. Oh, sorry.
So we'll have more on this Sega to go into, and we'll be coming back to it in a little bit. But I wanted to start now to kind of shift gears. We already teased a little bit with this into the Super Nintendo version. This one, not developed by Virgin Interactive, developed by Capcom, of all people, and more specifically,
never heard of them. I know David Perry, but I don't. Who's Capcom?
Capcom, and designed by the guy who created Resident Evil.
Shinji Mikami. Oh my god!
Yeah, Shinji Mikami, Resident Evil, Evil Within, Dino Crisis. All the good stuff.
Yeah, R4. Like, come on.
And I will say it was apparently Capcom's highest selling Super Nintendo game after the Street Fighter 2 versions.
What?
So better than Mega Man, the Marvel franchises, all that.
So I want to emphasize this, because after reading both of that, I had to remind myself, like, Aladdin was fucking huge. I don't know if like that was something that, and I, as a kid, I loved Aladdin.
It was because it was like the best-selling movie that year.
Yeah, right? It was like that game was so big. Like, it's not, and like also like that was the most successful Capcom game. The Genesis game handily outsold it. Like, it was like 4 million to like less than 2, and like so like but they were both like milestone like successes for both development studios.
Made the money, which is great. I'll say Did any of you guys ever play the Tiny Toon Super Nintendo game?
Yeah,
A little bit.
There's a little bit about this.
Buster Bust Loose.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wait.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something about this game, I couldn't put my finger on it, reminded me a little bit of that. I don't know if it was just the art style, how bright it was, which I was kind of a fan of. But there was, or even just like the kind of like the jumping on, the way jumping on creatures were sort of handled with that. But I don't know, there's something that seemed similar to that. But I got a little more warm fuzzies out of this game than the other game.
The Genesis one versus the Super Nintendo one, you mean?
Yeah, I got a little more warm fuzzies out of the Super Nintendo one from the art style and the presentation alone.
It was definitely like as like a Nintendo kid growing up and like owning this game.
Patrick's just like
I mean, I had both systems.
Right.
That's true.
As somebody that had a mother who loved me,
My mother bought me the Super Nintendo. That was
Right, he knows what he said.
But in this case,
no, like I remembered playing, and like I think there was definitely like a nostalgia hit at first, or at particular point, like in that inside the genie lamp level. Like I very specifically remember that part where you have to like bounce across, and the genie just keeps throwing you different or sometimes different things. In the playthrough I did this last time, the first time I did it, I like died right before the end, and then the second time I played it, the genie only threw me clouds the entire
it took mercy on you.
And I was like, well, okay. I wasn't mad because I was like, I didn't want to do all of this all over again. But like, but like there were like very specific moments from the Super Nintendo one, yeah, that I felt like a similar way and be like, oh, I really remembered this being a thing. I hated it though. Look, I was like playing through it again. I was like, this sucks.
The thing for me is I never played either of these games growing up. Like I've only played them now currently, which is like weird. I was getting this weird kind of wave of nostalgia. But no, I will say I was a fan of the movement mechanic in this game. I liked the flipping over. I liked being able to grab the ledge and pull myself up. It felt almost Prince of Persia-esque in a way to me.
Except I feel like there were plenty of times when I went to a ledge and it just Aladdin didn't latch on. A ledge that I in later playthroughs or earlier playthroughs latched on to perfectly. Aladdin just went, nope.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Look, again, collision detection on either of these aren't great.
I didn't have that problem, but I weirdly had a problem because he has like a hover in the SNES one where he like holds up like a rug or whatever and like can float. And there were some levels where it straight up didn't work. And
is that what collecting that was supposed to?
If you die, if you die, you lose it.
The like little my god, I didn't know either.
I didn't use that at all.
Wait, you lose it if you die?
Yeah, it took me far too. I believe
you have to collect it.
You have to collect it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck that was.
What the thing that looks like a scroll is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a power up.
I thought it was like the U.S. Constitution. I didn't fucking know. That's another thing. The
Genesis
tells you what every icon does. Yeah, the Genesis is like, here's the 15 things. But Nintendo was just like, have fun.
Both games, as with every game in that era, came with manuals where they're not having a tutorial is not going to be held against either game. I will give it to Sega for having that. That was good. Yeah. But it's like, I will say, I also played through 3 levels before I even realized I had the thing. And I was very confused at first, being like, I fucking have this thing the entire time.
That makes so much more sense because so many of those later levels too, where I was like, wow, they really depend a lot on you like bouncing off of like gymnast level, like off of like a thin platform. And I was like, yeah, if I had something where it's like, oh, if I could hold down the jump button and slow my fall a little bit, like in all of my favorite platformers, this would be like slightly less forgiving.
I loved having it. Honestly, it was a great, it made the game more
enjoyable. It was nice to have. I had no idea I lost it if I died. That explains why some levels it just straight up didn't work. And I didn't understand.
Well, and now I feel like I didn't play the game the way I was supposed to be playing it because I was getting really fucking mad. Yeah. Like, and I'll say, like, even if I could slow myself down, the Super Nintendo one, you were talking about the reality, like the feeling of collision, the like, you wish the sword felt like something. I'll say that, like, I understand why I bounce back when I hit something bad in the Super Nintendo one, but it was always, like, I fell off of so many ledges or platforms because Aladdin did the, like, and, like, I remember feeling that in Mega Man. I've actually never been a fan of Mega Man games, mostly because of how frustrated I am by the bounce back when you get hit by things.
Yeah.
And oh god, I went insane playing the Super Nintendo.
That's fair. Look, the SNES version does have my favorite Aladdin character, which is the winged pot with the chicken feet. Which I was like, they fucking love that thing because it's all over that game.
Yeah.
And especially like with the genie level, I don't know where they got it from because it's not a character in the movie at all.
Well, but neither is the skeleton that holds a bomb and explodes.
Right, the skeleton that holds a bomb and explodes feels like something the genie would have come up with, but is not actually a thing.
No, that's in the dungeon. That's just a dungeon.
It is a dungeon character.
There were actually skeleton enemies in both games, right?
Yeah.
The Super Nintendo one had the skeletons that came out of the gold.
The gold.
Oh yeah.
And what was crazy was that here you are. I remember thinking that they had the skeleton pop out of the gold. And like that was a cool enemy that you never see again. I was like, why is this character not showing up in the temple level where it would have been a perfect mix?
My favorite part of the Aladdin movie when he goes to the ancient pyramid,
as opposed to walking through the desert. Like
no, also not a thing. Both games definitely take liberties with like what happens in those movies. But like I remember getting to that level and being like, I should have watched the cutscene before because how did they explain why he goes to this? And also that level fakes you out on a boss fight. Yeah. Where you're gonna fight a boss and there's just Abu in like the little helmet.
So the story is that Abu falls off the carpet and Aladdin has to go back and get him. that is literally how they explain that level.
Okay, I didn't miss much development then.
No, I will say I was very disappointed in the just general lack of bosses in the Super Nintendo one. There outside of Jafar, there is one, just one.
And I mean, not to get to a full comparison point, but like that the Snake Jafar battle is like the only time the Super Nintendo game fully clicked for me, where it's like, you know what, for a game that's going to make you have to rely on Aladdin's best weapon, his bare ass feet. I was like, you know what? I was like, this fight actually works. Like the dynamic, like the snake's body and like all of that. I was like, and like, yeah, the different ways you can kind of like hang on to things and jump around. I was like, this is the game like really firing on the level that it should have been doing the rest of the game and chose like not to.
There's a tactility to when it works to the way Aladdin moves in the Super Nintendo one that makes you wish it was better because you're like, oh, maybe there's like a parkour like a Prince of Persia-esque like Aladdin game that really would have like use this to like its fullest extent. And you're right, like it doesn't feel like it starts to fire on all cylinders until the very end.
I think it's a fair point. The mechanics of the game feel very Prince of Persia, but the level design don't. And it does seem like a disconnect. Right. Whereas, while I maybe not be as much of a fan of both the Sega mechanic and level design, both of them made sense together. Both of them felt like they were part of the same game.
Right. This is the thing I was saying at the beginning. Like it's very much, it feels like Virgin Games was like punching above their weight. They did a lot of extra stuff to like try to make this game work, and Capcom kind of phoned it in. Like they just, Capcom is easily the more capable developer amongst these, especially Capcom in the early 90s. Like, are you kidding me?
Fire on all cylinders. Absolutely.
Yeah. But like, man, they just didn't put their heart into this one. And like, I won't give away my ratings, but like I like the Genesis one more. I think it succeeds more as an Aladdin game, even if it's still not that great as a game. Right. I think it accomplishes more with that. Like as a kid, I thought the Super Nintendo one was lame. Like I played the Genesis one at my friend's house and then rented the Super Nintendo one and was like, this is disappointing.
Was it because the Sega one had a sword?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, see?
And
first off, again, Pat, I don't want to hear from you on this one. You were literally just complaining about platforms with swords.
There's a quote from Shinji Mikami from like a few years back where he even was like, he's like, if I had to pick, I would play the Genesis one because
the fuck does he know? What does he ever mean?
I wish we had done that. It's like, okay. Like, yeah, it's neither game is that good in my opinion, but the Super Nintendo one just doesn't fully click, and like the soundtrack is weirdly like it's like trying to make like we didn't talk about the soundtrack for the Genesis game, which I actually really like. I actually really liked the original tracks on the Genesis game, probably even more than their attempts to recreate the songs from the movie.
Although I do wonder for me, I don't know if it was like during my when my honeymoon period was over with the Genesis one, because I was like, I feel like the tracks at the end I don't like as much, but I also don't know if that's because the game was now beginning to just drive me insane. Yeah.
It doesn't help that the last level of the game has the same music as the cave escape level, which is
that's triggering.
So that might have been why you didn't like it.
That's messed up. No, so the music things I thought was interesting because I would say 9 times out of 10, anything made on the Super Nintendo sound chip sounds better than the Sega sound chip. But as you brought up, like the actual music sounded better on the Sega. And more so, it's like everything on the Super Nintendo just sound like the bridge of a song, like of a song we knew but never heard the bridge to before. That was kind of like everything sounded like a variation of that, but was what I didn't like about the Sega one, though, the music on that. Any song that wasn't originally made for the game had an end and then restarted. That drives me insane. Like make it a looping track. It doesn't have to have like friend like me. Ba-da-ba, like just like really kind of takes you out.
Wait, real quick compliment for the Super Nintendo one. The Abu, the appearance of Abu and the way that Abu moves through the levels with you was very good in the Super Nintendo one.
Yeah, so this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to get into. Before we start really comparing them, I want to do a quick mini segment called Who Wore It Best. I'm going to lay out just a quick thing from that were in both games, and I want you guys to just give me a quick short blurb on who did it best. I'm going to start just because it wasn't the first on the list, but it's going to be now. The use of Abu.
Ooh.
Who wore it best?
I'm going to give it to Super Nintendo for me, even though I liked the Abu mini levels. That wasn't Abu specific enough. I think that the way that Abu moved around with you in the Super Nintendo one was like a little bit. It felt more like he had a mind of his own, you know, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I'll actually agree with you, Pat. I played the Super Nintendo one wishing there were Abu mini games because I did really like that element of the Genesis game. But I do like the fact that Abu was kind of with you through the levels in the Super Nintendo one and felt like felt like he would be more like he was in the movie. So yeah, I would give the edge to that. Although I do wish the Super Nintendo game had things where you could control Abu also.
I'm going to give it to the Genesis one, just because by nature of it having an Abu that you could play as like in those bonus games. Obviously, if I'm playing a game, I want to play as Aladdin. And after playing through both of them, I never want to play as Aladdin anymore. What do I even know? But at least it gave me the Abu thing. So like, in which also like smart move. Of course, like you're gonna want a little bit of that, like as a kid, with an IP like Aladdin. So the Genesis gets it for me.
All right. Next, somewhat comparable here, bonus games. Who wore it best?
I mean, question, did the Super Nintendo even have bonus games?
It did.
It did. It had the roulette wheel, where the other one had the change in the genie's mouth, the different items.
Right. I would barely,
But I would also count the Abu game as a bonus game in Sega as well. Whether that's a boon or a bane, that's up to you guys.
A boon or a bane.
I just realized what I did.
Oh god. Genesis 100%. The wheel was dumb. I didn't even really remember the wheel in the Super Nintendo one.
I would say, I probably have to pick Genesis because I think it had more. There was a part of me that kind of liked the genie like finger dangling thing with the and I liked that the roulette wheel gave me something every time, whereas I didn't have to just get Jafar right at the start and have him laugh at me and have it be over. But Genesis offered more. I'll hand it to that.
Also, wait, did you have to do something to get the Super Nintendo wheel, or did they just give you the wheel?
You had to get the Scarab. There's a Scarab.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's why I was buzzing around.
I mean, I got the Scarab, but I never realized that was why I got the bonus level. I just always got the Scarab because, I don't know, you just had to mash on jump as soon as you saw it. And
yeah. Just go nuts for it.
Yeah.
Louis?
I'm gonna go Super Nintendo because that wheel again, it actually gave you a useful thing for the game. Like having the bonus games there, like I don't know, the Abu level like never gave you like enough rubies, and I truly couldn't get anything out of like the genie mouth thing. So getting something useful, like getting a full ass continue. And like that not being a difficult thing to get on the wheel, awesome, great.
It was also I just like visually more satisfying to get the Mode 7.
Oh
graphics
yeah,
on
yeah,
that
yeah,
than
yeah. The way that agreed.
just the constant changing.
Yep.
Next up, I feel like this will be an interesting one. Carpet rides. Now, there's only one carpet ride level in the Sega, but I'm counting standing on the carpet and floating through a level as part of that. Versus,
I'm gonna jump in right away because that was one of my major problems with the Sega one was how herky-jerky that carpet was. Anytime you just sat on it, I was like, "What is this?"
And like having to kill things while on it, just that's a mash the button.
That was so insane. I got Super Nintendo, and I fucking hated the carpet level on the Super Nintendo, but still, it didn't have whatever that was. It wins.
I'm gonna go Genesis for ambition because they at least tried to give you something else to be doing. But I mean I also agree that it was awful in both games.
Yeah, if the Genesis carpet level wasn't so arbitrary, or I guess it was a 3-time thing. I didn't realize that while I was playing. Like the Super Nintendo Magic Carpet level, it was literally for me that last diagonal you had to do through the tunnel that killed me every time. And then when I beat it, I was so mad because I saw it was the very end of the level, and I was like, I got through the whole thing every time except for this. But I guess because it didn't have the weird you have to swing your sword wildly, like bouncing around thing. And at least there was also a bonus level where you could collect a bunch of gems, which the Genesis one didn't offer. I'll give it to Super Nintendo.
Real quick, what were the differences in the gems in the Super Nintendo one? Well, like the red gems, I get that at the end it's like this is how many red gems you got.
10 red gems give you an extra health icon on your health bar. So your hearts grow at every 10 red gems you get.
I got like a red gem.
And also, if you completed the game with 50 red gems, you got a different ending.
Really?
This is, again, as somebody that looked up cheat codes for both of these games.
What's the different ending?
I didn't bother to watch it. I just
Aladdin lives in the end of the good ending.
I also didn't watch the ending for the one that I
I was just because it's the end of the movie.
It's just the end of the movie. I don't know what they would add.
But there is something extra apparently.
So that actually ties a little bit. The next one is health bar. Which game had the better health bar?
I'm going to say Genesis because it was at least thematically themed around Aladdin.
Yeah, but I'll just say I'm trying to stay out of this and just ask you guys these, but I've never been a fan of the art that disappears over time because you don't really know how much health you have.
Yeah, it didn't. If it was like a more like elegant system where getting hit by a sword is going to do less than getting hit by multiple Iagos in the same space and level, then I'd be like, okay, sure, that's fine. But when it's just the chunks are different amounts, the heart system makes sense. Louis,
you don't remember Iago and all his identical twin brothers?
All his cousins.
That honestly, one level towards the end where there's just a ton of them in the same. I was like, I don't like this at all. I was like, that upset me in a weird way. But
you're imagining multiple Gilbert Gottfrieds, is that why?
True.
I might lean towards the Genesis one only because the disappearing art thing and the precision of it doesn't bother me as much. I think maybe that was partially because I was buying into the kind of sloppy feel of the Genesis one and how it controlled all together, where I was like, who cares how much life I have? Let me just get to the end. Or let me just get to the next checkpoint, and then if I die, it's not a big deal.
That's fair. That's fair.
And so for me, the life bar fed into the overall style of the Genesis game, which I think is great. And so I liked that, even though I did actually like the ability to upgrade your life bar in the SNES one. I would still give the edge to Genesis.
I never knew that's what it was. I couldn't get the red gems to save my fucking life. So.
I feel like this is going to have a lot of strong emotions to it. Cave level. Who wore it best?
Neither.
Do you get to put a monkey-bodied Safa in the Super Nintendo version? I ask you.
I hated the water log level part of it in the Super Nintendo one. I hated that. So I might give it to Genesis, but I don't know. They're both bad.
I can't, that escaping the cave level on the Genesis
it's rough.
It was just like a level of hell I didn't know existed. I've got to give it to Super Nintendo.
That is true. I if it was just the first Cave of Wonders level versus like what the Super Nintendo had, I would give it to the Genesis one because I actually kind of enjoy that level, and I do like that like goofy like you fight a living embodiment of the monkey statue like boss fight towards the end.
Although I could not tell for the life of me when I kept hitting it with my sword, I was like, is this doing anything? Am I supposed to throw apples at it? Are apples actually more powerful? The end of the Genesis game does answer definitively.
We'll get that.
I only know only because I played it as a kid and I remember that's how the boss fight went was that why I knew you were being effective in that fight. But yeah, I agree that the second part of the Genesis one where you're escaping is so like if you could just give me one checkpoint somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere.
Yes. Anywhere, right.
The level's not short enough to not have a checkpoint.
Yeah, the Donkey Kong kart levels all had at least one checkpoint. That's it.
I will say I wasn't a fan of the cave level, like the Genesis backgrounds, because most of the Genesis backgrounds are too dark, and a lot of the enemies, like the bats, were also too dark. And then that combined with you can't tell what's platform, what's foreground, and what's background. Like just like the Earthworm Jim games, it's the same basic kind of like problem I had with those. Yeah, it's just like it's just hard to see anybody. All right, we got two more on here. Use of the genie. Who wore it best? I'm talking all uses, level, bonus, character, even the shooting at the beginning of the Sega game. Like,
remind me what happens in the Super Nintendo one when you die. I remember you had to go and pull on the chain, but what happened right after you died? Because the genie rubbing your shoulders in the Genesis one sticks out in my mind a lot, and I really love that.
Yeah, I don't actually recall. I don't think anything did. I think you just kind of like fade to black and fade back up.
All right, I'm going Genesis.
I'll say this: I liked the genie level in the Super Nintendo version.
I
both visually and
right. Like what they did with like the genie's face like branded across everything in the Super Nintendo one. I think
you grab a hold, you step on them, and he did the face.
And the expression changes and whatnot.
He also looks sad when you die. I don't know if you noticed that because I died a lot.
Right.
I did like that a lot.
Which I will say, oof, boy, in the Genesis one. That one scene where you just have to grab onto like there's like those balloons in a line that takes like 15 actual minutes.
And it's again has to be so exact you just fall into the hole.
Yeah. Boy, I'm giving it to Super Nintendo based off of the strength of that level.
I'm torn because there are a couple things about the Genesis one of the genie level I really like. That the balloons is a good point of how long it took. Part of it is I think like me playing it now, and remembering like how tragic it was to lose Robin Williams. Something about the moon with the laughing genie face like made me so happy when I saw it. Like,
that's cute.
That's very sweet.
Like just like because I think it was hard to. It's because Robin Williams is so like tied into that. I was like there was like so much. I don't know why that it really grabbed me. That level is very much like them throwing shit all over the place though, and it's not very well constructed.
And just how every level you sunk through.
That's weird. You're sinking through like his body, like those his arms.
I thought that like that mechanic was kind of cool. Like in the same way, like when it happens in the trees, like when you go, I was like, oh okay. I was like, that's neat, but it opens up a lot of other questions that I don't
Well, so it's there's no visual cue that's going to happen, right? You look at a game that has like quicksand, and you can tell just by looking at it, oh, there's probably going to be a sinking mechanic somewhere in here.
Right.
You look at any of this, nothing. Like, why would I be sliding down the tree?
Right.
Palm leaves are slippery. Duh.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I mean,
no.
it ties.
Don't try to make
it ties,
excuses.
it ties into the dubious physics of the Genesis game, which I think is its biggest downfall. And like, it's like the hit detection, like the movement, all that stuff. I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to argue. And you know, Super Nintendo crucially has an abundance of flying pots with chicken feet, which are my favorite Aladdin character. And so I do have to give it that. But it's a better constructed level. Whereas the Genesis one has some creative stuff that I like, but is all over the place.
But this was using the genie, not level design. So you gotta make a call.
You're right. Who
uses the genie better?
Well, I would say, but that level is
the things that make the Super Nintendo one a better level use the genie. Like they still use him a lot, and I think that's worthwhile. Love of the Laughing Moon aside, yeah.
And the referee shooting Iago, which Louis,
that was great.
The best part.
Right, but like it's not that. I feel like it's not enough for me. I think
that
and also like and you get the sweet genie finger in the wheel on the Super Nintendo.
Thank you, Louis, for reminding me of the dangly genie finger. My favorite thing.
The genie physics.
Say last one on here, just because I think it's an important one to bring up. Jafar fight.
Oh, Super Nintendo best. Down. Although I will say I was lightly traumatized, not remembering how the boss fight works. After you do like that first like stomping on Jafar's head fight, and then like you go into that final level and he's just still in like the same position with like the staff above his head and the purple glow. I was like, am I gonna have to do this again? And then he transforms and I was like, thank you, Christ, because I would have turned the game off and just said I beat it if that was the case. But that snake fight was the best part for me of the Super Nintendo one.
I would actually agree with that across the board. Best part of the game is that snake fight should have been the first boss, and then it just got better from there.
Agreed. And I don't know. And also, you didn't get a sword, so like just being like, okay, I've got to stomp on this like very powerful sorcerer felt better than being like, I've had a sword this whole time, but the only way I'm going to win this final battle is by chucking apples that are everywhere.
To an enemy off screen. Like, there's something deeply unsatisfying about your final blow on the last boss not being able to see it.
And even if you do see it, just being an apple hitting him and him going, and then it just being over.
That's
I didn't get to the Jafar fight on either, so I'll just think. I mean, it's been years, but yeah, it's pretty clear the Super Nintendo one's better.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'll allow you to just say Sega, just so you can help offset a little bit. Because I know you want to.
No, it's okay. It's okay. If we had said boss fights, I liked that the Sega like introduced other characters to have you like the guy that grabs
I'll say I did have boss fights on here, but I felt that was too catch-all because most games have boss fights. It's trying to be specific. But I will agree with you as far as boss fights are concerned. Sega has it out by having them.
You have that one guy at the market that takes multiple stomps to that.
And that was, but like you can only do it after he swung at you. Like the timing is weird. Like, no, I'll take the little guy I just shoot apples at from below over and over again.
Yeah.
No, I also say I think earned some love is the Jafar fight before the snake is actually a lot of fun in the Super Nintendo version.
I did not enjoy it. I
like
so
the jumping on the staff.
And then died 0 times during the snake fight.
So you just like it because it was easy.
Well, no, like I think it read better. So actually, and if everybody else didn't have an issue with this, then fine, I'm an idiot. But when the chicken pots came out, there was only one time I was ever able to like parlay that into a successful offensive attack on Jafar. I was like, every time the way that they fell, like their like weird trajectory, I was like, I can't successfully like position myself to bounce off of them and still get to Jafar in time.
I will say this, when my number one character, the chicken pot, came out during that, I was too busy popping for that appearance.
The live studio audience every time the chicken pot shows up.
No, but I found the physics very frustrating in that fight. I think because it was kind of like a bigger version of the first boss fight in that game, where I wanted Aladdin's like hit detection to be a little more flexible, honestly, in my jumping. And so I died a lot of times in that first part of the Jafar fight, just because I think I just wasn't playing by the game's rules and was like mad at what they were. So I did like I Noah, what you're explaining as being good about it, I think is like you're very on point for that. I think I was like playing the game wrong and like was not doing a good job.
You were angry, didn't acquiesce to your needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So the floodgates are open, guys. We've already been comparing them to each other this entire time, even when we said we weren't going to. But like, let's have at it. What have we not touched on yet?
So here's my problem. The Super Nintendo one, for being a worse game, in my opinion, was at an appropriate length. Like the game gets in and gets out. The Super Nintendo one the Genesis one has too many levels, and then like that also get worse. So like as my fatigue with just playing the game continues, so do the levels also like test me even more. In a way that if they had shaved a couple of levels off of there, mostly the escape of the Game of Wonders.
Like, but you want to keep fighting Iago in the machine, right?
that was annoying too. I hated that one.
Oh, but then again, where it's just like if you come into that with like 80 apples, then it's not a challenge. It's just how quickly you can jam the button.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I will say I'll give Super Nintendo that lengthwise. That the Genesis one, for being a better thing, runs for too long, way too long.
I like that you're basically rating these like on lack of pain. Like I know
there's not enough pleasure to like. Yeah. So which one hurt me less? These were both bad relationships, but one of them was very bad and I ended quickly.
One was bad and you cheated.
Well, I cheated in both. So jokes on them.
God. I gotta check out on this. Am I the only one who liked the Super Nintendo version more?
I think so.
I think I might be. Maybe. Okay.
I'm a little torn because I think if somebody put like a gun to my mother's head and was like, you have to play one of these again, I think I would maybe say the Super Nintendo one, because it's like, I know I can get through it faster and then that gun will be off of my mother's head. So like, let's just do that. I'm not. Well,
so is the gun set for like, I will shoot unless you complete it, or just I will shoot unless you play it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's fair. I'm gonna let's. You know what? The gun thing, America. Let's say there's one very threatening-looking apple. You want to see your mother turn into a puff of smoke?
So I mean, I'll say for me, like, neither one was great, but I liked the gameplay of the Super Nintendo more. I liked the collision. I don't know. I agree the collision section was always great. It was still better. I feel like I knew what I was jumping on all the time on the Super Nintendo version. And just visual presentation. The animation was better on the Sega, but I think the art was still better on the Super Nintendo, if that makes sense.
It was so boring. It
was bright, it was colorful, it was a little more three-dimensional as far as shading on the actual like sprites. Like you look at them side by side, the color palette is just, and I know that's a big thing for both, and Super Nintendo was just capable of doing more with that, but that was a big part of it, of what I was looking at.
I mean, I pulled up pictures of both of them next to each other just to like make sure I could like visually keep reminding myself. So Genesis had half of the colors like available to them based on the I still think that the range and like what they pulled together, like if you look at the picture of the cave escape on the carpet, that is just like brown. The city is just like pink and sepia. Even Genie's level is just like light blue and white. Whereas the Genesis one, I feel like had some real range, some real dark reds and bright, vibrant.
The Genesis Genie level was mostly just a dark blue background. The Genie one actually had like depth, parallax, and color to it. Like it actually had like the clouds going further back and everything. Are you sure you have the right one?
Yeah. No, I'm looking at it. It's literally an article that compares the two games.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds like this article has an agenda.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, it's just screenshots.
Because even like the City Escape one, like the buildings. I mean, yes, the buildings in both are just trying to emulate sandstone, so they're going to look sepia. But at least the ones on the Super Nintendo, I felt like there's texture to those buildings. Where the Sega just looks like they hit the fill button on Photoshop and then moved on to a different color.
I think you like a background, is what I'm learning, because the backgrounds in the Super Nintendo one were better.
They were better, and that makes it. I think that does make a difference to the overall presentation. A background is important.
Yeah, but that's not. I don't know, man. I don't watch movies and play games for the background. I do it for the foreground.
You do it for the entire picture. It's the composition, sir.
It's not that the backgrounds aren't important, because I will also agree that I think there are certain elements of the SNES version that showcase that the system was more powerful and capable of more. But I think, I don't know, man, like you're looking at Aladdin, you're looking at the characters, you're looking at what you identify to be the world of this, and even if the background is obviously part of that, like that feeling of like playing this Disney movie is more captured in the Genesis version. And for me, that is ultimately the most important thing of this, right? Like you're not playing the new Prince of Persia, you're not playing a different original character who takes place in this setting. You are playing Aladdin the game. And the Genesis version just captures even if obviously like Aladdin used a sword for maybe I could count on one hand the number of minutes like Aladdin wielded a sword in Aladdin the movie, and obviously both games take a lot of liberties with like what happens, but I think like the desire to, I think of like me as a kid playing it at my friend's house, like the desire to play the movie, which is basically what you want to do. I think the Genesis pulls off better by having that better style and having that better approach to the way the characters look and like the way they move. And there's so many other problems with the Genesis one, but I would still rank it higher because I think it succeeds in a very fundamental way that the Super Nintendo one doesn't do better enough for me to put that over, is what I would say.
Yeah. I still think your initial comment, Petro, about that it feels like Virgin was punching above their weight and Capcom was phoning it in it's just how I feel and how I felt the whole time I was playing.
I think that is an absolutely fair assessment, especially knowing that it's Capcom, especially knowing Virgin hasn't had much and didn't. Like I'm trying to think. I keep going back to Earthworm Jim because I think that's the only big game I could really think of off the top of my head.
They had a few. I'll pull up.
Was a part of, and obviously, like Virgin overall hasn't done that great for themselves as a company.
Did Virgin do the 7-Up, the Cool Spot game?
It would make sense, honestly.
They did a Dune game. They did
a Dune game.
They did a Dune game.
Was that the real time strategy?
It's Dune and Dune 2. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, I think it is.
Did Paul run around wielding a sword? And
yes, they did Cool Spot.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought I remembered seeing the Virgin thing. Now, like thinking back on it from that one back in the day, I wonder if that Dune game is more boring or less boring than the Fellowship of the Ring Super Nintendo game.
A game that I owned.
Okay, well, so we already know that I'm going to be in the minority as far as how my votes are, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to get our votes in, guys. I've got the list up here. You have previously used various numbers in the past. You cannot use again. I'm not going to read them all out and hope you can do it. I'm not going to share till afterwards. I will just let you know if you have used that number previously. However, for those of you who are listening for the first time, this is how it works. Our panelists are going to be able to rate this game on a number between 0 and 10. They cannot use the same number more than once in perpetuity, which means of the 10 games they rated in the last episode, they can't use any of those numbers. A game always has to be better or worse than another game. This not only locks in their official opinion they can never go back on or deny ever again. But the opinion of us as a nation, as a people, and as one world, this is the list. Guys, let's start with Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. I'll say this much. I gave it a 6.1. It was not, I still think it wasn't just plain. I enjoyed the mechanics. I enjoyed the way it looked. I had a good time with it. It was not a great game. I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it. But like, if I look at what else I kind of rated on here for the most part, like that's still under Sonic the Hedgehog for me. So, and Sonic the Hedgehog was also like fine. Tro.
Super Nintendo one, I gave a 4.7.
All right.
I spoiler alert, I ranked the Genesis one a little higher. In all fairness, it's the one I have more positive nostalgia for, but I also just think even at this time, even on games based on Disney properties, Capcom's done a lot better. I actually went into playing both these games thinking maybe I was going to like the Super Nintendo one more because I thought it was worse when I was a kid for reasons that are kind of dumb. But
as opposed to now, but go on.
Right, my reasoning's not any smarter now. I just can say it in more words rather than just he had a sword. But the Super Nintendo game, it just never, outside of maybe the very end, like Louis said, that never fully clicked for me in the way that I felt like it could have. And I just didn't have that much. It was short, and so I got through it, but I didn't have that much fun playing it. I don't think it's too well designed to go below the score I gave in the sense that it's like competently put together as a game. But like even then, like I had problems with the physics of the jump attacks at some point. Like I can't. I gotta be under 5 for this.
All right, Patrick.
I think the Super Nintendo one's going to get a 3.9 for me.
3.9.
Yeah. I haven't used 3.9 yet, have I?
I'm checking that right now, but you have not. No.
All right. Yeah. 3.9. I really hate. I felt like I was playing as like a bag of sand that would pop off a ledge every time something hit it. And I hate that. I hate it so much. So that's where I'm going to come in. And to me, it felt very devoid of like, the backgrounds are pretty. Looking at the pictures and stuff again to remind myself, the backgrounds are pretty, but it felt hollow when playing it to me.
All right. I mean, I'm glad to see it's still below God of War for you, which is nice.
Yeah.
Louis.
So I actually, after doing this episode, I've had a change of heart, and I was coming in here ready to be like, the Genesis one is going to rank higher, but I've thought about it. Both of them are going to be below a 5 because I had less fun playing. Like the net positive is not there. I enjoyed them like less than I was angrier more often in playing them. But the more that I think about it, even length aside, there is a construction, as Petra was saying too, like it's a competently built game. And I think were I to play them both more often, which I actually did when I had the Super Nintendo one, there is like a way to get good and understand the logic of the Super Nintendo game that I think is entirely missing from the Genesis one, even if at the base, like that sloppiness is more fun. There is a way to learn the system of the Super Nintendo one that I think makes replayability more compelling. And then also the length absolutely helps with that. So I'll give the Super Nintendo one a 4.41.
4.41. Not been used. You're good.
Great.
All right.
That'd actually be wild if it
had. Let's start with the Sega one. I got verbally, physically, and mentally angry at this one in a way that I have not gotten at most of the other games we've played so far, or games in general. And honestly, solely because of the Cave of Wonders level. The levels afterwards were aggravating, but so angry, I gave it a 4.5. Louis, what'd you give it?
My initial plan in doing a 4.41 for the SNES was because I was going to get a 4.40 for the Genesis one. However, it's going to get a 4.39 because, that escape from the Cave of Wonders level deserves additional penalization. It was trash. That game, again, if you have to assess what it means to play a game, I'm not going to love doing either of these again, but I guess I would do the Super Nintendo one if I had to. And I think that has to then by nature make it a better game, even if my one-time experience with the Genesis one was better in that one time. In the future, I see the Super Nintendo one being okay. So,
right. Patrick.
I think I'm going to come in with a 5.51 for the Genesis one.
Also, wait, for the record, what did you say was your 5.0 game? What was
my mid was Sonic, wasn't it?
It was Sonic.
Yeah, okay. Sonic was
you
neutral.
Can't use 5.51.
Okay, I'm gonna do 5.
Crazy Taxi is a 5.51 specifically for the arcade.
All right, 5.511.
All right.
A little bit better than Arcade Crazy Taxi, I think.
This does mean Patrick thinks that Aladdin for Genesis on a whole is better than all the Crazy Taxi versions.
I'm okay with that.
And God of War.
And God of War.
Here's the pitch for why it's a little bit. It's still not a great game by any means, but I think that it encapsulated the fun of the movie and the enjoyment. When I play a movie IP game, I'm not always as excited about the gameplay as I am of entering that world and experiencing that and for a 1993, right? Is that the year?
93. For
a 1993 game to bring you into the world, I think that the Sega did a much better job of that. And even playing it again now, it probably filled me with nostalgic memories of Aladdin the movie that I don't even really that aren't really there as much, but it felt more fun, it felt more playful, it felt more it was maybe worse gameplay, but a better game feeling for me. So that's why I give it that.
And I'll give you this much, is that I think for both these games, they are probably the best movie tie-in games from the Super Nintendo Sega era.
We have to replay the Super Nintendo's Lion King game because I remember really liking that.
I mean, I'll give you a sneak preview, having played a little bit recently when I bought the collection.
Has anybody played the Lawnmower Man game?
No. I was. That's true. I wasn't taking into account Cliffhanger. That's on me.
Do you remember the PS2 Nightmare Before Christmas game? Because
I do remember that game.
That was terrible.
I'm only talking 2D 16-bit. I feel like, and I'm not saying ever. I feel like there's been good movie time games since, but I feel like there are not many for this era of gaming.
Right.
I'm struggling to think of many. Period. Honestly.
There were more. There was a Blues Brothers Super Nintendo game. There were plenty.
No!
I
owned that game. We can talk about Blues
I
Brothers.
struggle to think of good ones.
You want.
God, I thought Louis had shitty taste in what games he owned, but goddamn, Tro.
Can we?
I was given that game.
As a bonus,
actually, both those games were gifts.
All right, I don't want to lose this. Tro, our last thing here.
Sure, I'm going to give a 5.5 to the Genesis game.
5.5.
My math is simple. It is a thoroughly mediocre game, so it deserves a 5. But I can't deny both the things that I think give it the edge in terms of my modern replay, and also just the actual nostalgia I have for it as memories of playing it as a kid. I distinctly remember my friend and I used to like to turn the music off in the game and turn the sound up, and then turn the volume on the TV all the way up so only the sound effects were super loud. We thought it was hilarious. We used to play that all that, like a lot.
Also,
with that Aladdin game.
Wait, I feel like this wasn't touched upon, but that voice that they used for Aladdin, that like, yeah.
Was that supposed to be Aladdin?
I forgot to say this. In the Super Nintendo game, it sounded like he was saying "fuck" to me when he got hit. I couldn't get it out of my head. The first time I heard it,
Isn't there the weird thing in the movie where everyone thinks he's saying, like, whispering, "All good boys and girls take off their clothes" or something like that?
Yeah, he says something like that when you turn the volume way up, which I didn't hear in the Genesis game when I did it.
You did it in the Super Nintendo. That's
yeah.
All right.
But anyway, I so the 0.5 is for my my fond memories, and honestly, the reason I will go back and play the game again because I have a fondness towards that game that I think I know is rooted in nostalgia, but like I can't help but how I feel.
So while you're logging in Discord real fast, I'm gonna go ahead and read off the list for the viewers at home. In the future, we'll have a website up that you guys could go ahead and look alongside to get that going, so you can play along with the team here. Starting from the bottom, then we'll get there. We have E.T., Nights into Dreams, Super Nintendo Aladdin as our third worst game on the list. Sonic the Hedgehog, Genesis Aladdin, just narrowly eking that out. And then we're back with everything else. Duck Hunt, our Three Crazy Taxis, God of War, GoldenEye, Symphony of the Night, WarioWare, and Super Mario World. Guys, when you look at this list, does this list make sense to you?
I think
How mad are
it's
people going to
insane.
be that WarioWare will just solidly sit above Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
I'm actually pretty pissed about that, but it's the list. It is officially my view now. That is the gospel which I believe, that WarioWare is the better game.
We don't have anything coming in above a 9 though, so
nothing's coming above a 9.
There's room to breathe.
There's plenty of room. We've not played Hollow Knight yet, so there's plenty of room for this game to get in there.
Oh man.
Oh god. Well, Patrick won't be on that episode. Guys, when you look at this, you know what? I'll even go back to the actual full rankings. You guys see what you've voted things. It's the same order. Remember, you can change one ranking once. So you can't go back. You can't change the past. But if you want to change your rating on either Aladdin, you can do it once. How do you guys feel?
So wait, we can only change right now on an Aladdin, or we can change on any of the games we've voted.
No, anything that happened in the past is locked in. If you wanted to change that, you would have changed it during the episode we shot. Tro, Louis, guys giving a once over?
I don't. If it's just between the Aladdins, I don't need to change anything.
But if you could drop it below something else or above something else, if you're
I would like to see Sonic be higher than the Genesis Aladdin, because I think that's insane. You
can drop your Genesis score.
I could, however, my individual ratings support what I think is a more correct viewpoint on all of this. So I'm going to let it stand. And
fair, but in the annals of time, your individual rating does not matter. We all agree upon the final ratings on this list.
Wait, but Louis,
if I change my score for Genesis Aladdin.
Hold on. Louis personally rated. No. Louis personally rated the Sonic game worse than Aladdin on Genesis. Right? I'm looking at that. Right?
He did do that. That is true.
He did.
Yeah, Louis, you put Sonic at a 4.29 and Aladdin at a 4.39.
Well, I'm just saying, I still think it's wild.
No, then you shouldn't have done that. You're the reason that happened.
You could change your Aladdin.
Now you're thinking,
I think the variance between them that's not my fault. where these numbers lie is not on me to have that be. I also don't care enough. They're both not good games. So
I mean, I ranked them very close. You ranked them very close. Petra's got a 1.5 spread.
Sure, you're looking at this right now.
Yeah, Noah's got a 2-point spread.
Yeah, in the opposite direction of what we exactly hear.
Yeah, I do feel a little weird about having Genesis Aladdin sit above original Sonic the Hedgehog, even though I actually defend the idea that Sonic the Hedgehog
gave it a wide berth.
Yeah,
No, I think we need to knuck up.
It was like Troy, you did give it 1.5 more
Yeah,
than what you
I
gave
did.
Sonic. So you're saying it's worst game. You should drop that down.
now Sonic 2 will be higher up, but Sonic 1, it could sit there.
Should
Yeah, I agree. I also
drop that
replayed
genie
Sonic
down low.
recently, and Sonic drop that Robin Williams down low. And yeah, Sonic 2 would be a very different conversation. I would not have given it a 4. I'm going to stand by the ranking. That's fine. We put WarioWare above Castlevania Symphony of the Night. There's nothing is sacred about this list.
Everything
Yeah,
is
I'm
sacred. This
sorry,
is
nothing
the
except,
list.
Nothing except the core existence of the list.
We're not voting for us. We're voting
Categorization.
for society.
You're right. I already deserve to be punished for this, so that's fine. Leave Aladdin where it is.
We are officially saying Genesis Aladdin is a better game, better made, better produced, just a more beloved game than Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog 1 again. We're good. This is good. I'm comfortable with this.
This is one of those cases where just because it sold more units, like that, right? Like Aladdin is actually like the better. It's like the more indie, like the deeper
Exactly.
appreciated. Sonic was a little too
Yes,
main.
the Disney
true.
licensed
That's true.
game was the indie game.
Honestly, it was the real auteur vision of Aladdin.
Right,
You know,
right,
none of the corporate grubby hands were all over this art.
Yeah.
Exactly.
These are real underground stuff, man.
Oh God.
I love it. I'm so comfortable.
All right, we're locking in.
Also, I just want to comment on the scores really quick. Something I looked up when I was doing my research about these games was what the critics were saying about them at the time. Did you see this, Noah?
Oh God. So I say we're gonna say, but I did some math I want to go over. But go do your thing.
Critics were fucking wild for these games, is what I'm going to say, because
both of them?
Electronic Gaming
Yes.
Monthly, which
Yeah.
you kids might have heard was a magazine, or maybe you know what magazines were, had 4 critics, and I kind of liked what they did, where they each would give a score based on their background, and sometimes they had differing opinions. I thought that was interesting, but they gave Genesis Aladdin got 2 8s and 2 9s out of 10, and then SNES was only 1 point behind with like 3 8s and 1 9 out of 10, but they were fucking into this shit.
So based on the this is all was put on Wikipedia, so I always preface with that. Based on the numbers laid out in there, I ended up doing the actual algebra for each score, because some of them were like 5 out of 5 stars, out of 20. There's one that's out of 400, which like made no fucking sense to me. But I did
Classic scale.
I did the algebra to convert the scale back to 10 and basically do the average to see where it would stand if that was all one person on our list. Super Nintendo would have gotten an 8.73, and the Sega version would have gotten an 8.77. That is how much this game was loved.
See, the people at the time knew too. Genesis is a little bit better than
They were
Super
wrong.
Nintendo.
They were wrong.
Nah,
They
they were
were
right. We're
wrong
right.
in a lot of ways in what they thought of these games.
And it just goes to show that the people who are the actual professionals, the ones paid to do this, the experts in the field, don't know what they're talking about, because they both loved Aladdin.
That's right. None of them could be the beginning of Cuphead either.
All right, guys. Well, that is it. That locks in our list. That we are closed. It is done. Aladdin is for Super Nintendo, the 3rd worst game in the world. Aladdin for Genesis is the 5th worst game in the world. That's just on a small list that needs to continually grow, shape, change as we hunt our true mission. Before we get off, guys, and the plug, put yourself out there.
I'm on the hunt for Red October.
Beautiful.
No,
I think that was a Sega game too. Actually, we can go ahead and play that one.
Yeah, just Twitter Patrick BC Molloy. That's it.
Great, Tro.
Yeah, I'll throw my Twitter handle out there. I'll never use it, but it's at @Tro_Chelly. Maybe I'll start posting video game takes if people like to listen to me talk about it.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
Louis.
I ain't doing shit. I think for the purity of my ratings, I don't want to engage with the masses at all. I just want me and the games to be channeled. I'm not here for the critical discourse. So
Based on your garbage takes,
find
it's probably a
me
good
in
idea.
the streets. You got a strong video game opinion, find me on the street, pin me up against the wall, kiss my neck, and then tell me what you think.
Wow.
Guys, episode 2 in the bag, in the books. Feels good. Can I say that I'm happy with the results of putting Sega Genesis Aladdin over Super Nintendo Aladdin? Can I say I'm happy with that? Yes, I can. Yes, I can, because that is what is on the list now. We have no choice, but the list is God, the list is golden, the list is gospel. That's what we must follow, and that's what we must do. So I hope you enjoy that. If for some reason you're a blasphemer, you don't follow, you don't think that is correct, well, we'd love to go ahead and get your response. Please leave a review. Tell us why we're wrong. Give us 5 stars. I mean, leave any review anyway on any podcast app you're listening to this on right now, because, well, that helps the algorithm. That helps us get into more people's eyes. That helps boost our ratings, I guess. I'm still kind of learning how podcasts work, the business side of things. But leaving a review helps. 1 star, 5 star, 3 stars, whatever makes sense to you. Please do that and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching this on YouTube, youtube.com/BossMonsterKaiju, and seeing my beautiful face, then leave a comment. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hell, I would even say go so far to hit the bell notification, because YouTube's kind of a pain in the ass and doesn't always tell you when new videos are up, but that bell notification will. So do all the various things you need to do so you know that when this video, when the next episode, or any of my little videos in between come out to your eyeballs, your ear holes, up your nostrils, into your brain. Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on all sorts of social media. BossMonsterKaiju on Twitter. That's STA. BossMonsterKaiju on everything else. Instagram. I'm on TikTok now. I'm on Twitch. All the various platforms. I would also encourage you to check out our website, www.thekaijulounge.com. It's kind of the general hub where all these pieces come together, and you can see the list, the full list, in action. In case you ever forget, need to know, need a frame of reference, you can always go to the website. The list will be updated at least 24 hours after the video has gone live and the podcast has gone out. It's all one recording. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Next month, we're going to go cut the number of games we play in half. That's right. We're going down to 1. 1 game we're going to be adding to the list. However, that 1 game, so much could be said. So historically relevant. Some people say it's the greatest Zelda game of all time. But is it truly the greatest game of all time? Guys, we're playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the N64. You're not going to want to miss it. We got all sorts of great things to say, all sorts of wonderful opinions. Many you'll agree with, many more you won't. And where else could you go for such wonderful discourse than right here? So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being one with this podcast, guys. Until next time, my name is Noah Waterman. Stay cool, stay hip, stay heavy. The Best Game of All Time is an independent production, hosted, produced, and edited by Noah Waterman. Theme music by Peter Rowland. If you want to learn more, go visit www.thekaijulounge.com. Guys, that was fun.
Good time.
I was excited about this one.
That was a
much more fun than playing either of those games.